right now.
Okay. So let's move to two people who are actually teaching students often. And Darshanji, we're going to come back to you for more things on education and research. Dr. Wele, what do you think of these minimum standards that we all know are set, and what are some of these innovations that the students of today, I was a student just a few years ago, and I was so disappointed that we're always trapped into this box and that we're not allowed to grow beyond according to our own aptitude. What are some of these innovations that you could see that would be great for the National Commission to hear from teachers like you?
Look, I think Baswati, everyone, I mean, this discussion took me back to 2005 or 6, when here in Pune, there was a group of enthusiastic teachers and students, equally motivated students, led by Vaidya Namalji, and now he is no more, and Vaidya Narendra Bhatt and Dr. Bhushan Patwardhan. So we worked in Bharati Vidyapeeth was the center. My department and my university was actively involved. We had taken a lead there, and we studied across Maharashtra. We did a cross-sectional study of postgraduate students, undergraduate students, faculty members. They were private colleges, university colleges, government institutes, because Maharashtra has 2 government institutes also. So we studied across. There were 3 types of questionnaires prepared, and let me tell you, the report is available on, we did not publish it, but it is available on, yes, it is available on my website and on ResearchGate also. So you can have a look at any time, but the outcome of it is everyone wants some change. Okay, now when everyone wants some change, everyone is dissatisfied with the existing square system in some way or the other. We have to really think, is it possible to modify the system in such a way that at one and the same time everyone is satisfied? So you have to, I mean, we all have to think of knowledge, the real knowledge. We all have to think of applicability of that knowledge in the field. We are bound by the regulation. We have a system of knowledge, authorization by degree or such other regulatory things. So how to fit everything in one box? And I was discussing after this preamble of Madanji, I was discussing with my colleagues in the department, my friends here, and we all were, okay, we need to change, but what exactly? What can we propose? That can there be a baseline common minimum, just like that there is a common minimum program? Can there be something common minimum which every student of Ayurveda or every student taking admission to medical stream should be taught? And then depending on the aptitude of the student, it would be decided that that student should go to modern medicine, the student should go to Ayurveda, homeopathy, Siddha. I want to touch upon a topic which is generally remains out of this is when we are talking of Ayurveda, we do not talk of cross dialogue with our sisters, or like Unani and Siddha. How many Ayurvedic students have seen the Unani Dravya Gunadarsha? How many of them are aware about the huge literature in Siddha systems, which is very much near to us? I heard a couple of days ago, I was listening to some of the talks of the stalwarts, and while teaching in Europe also, when I said that yes, these are the systems, and Sova Rikpa, Sova means Ayu and Rikpa is knowledge. So that also is Ayurveda. And the ministry is also working. I have a feeling for last 5-6 years that yes, we are moving in a direction. We are moving in a certain direction. The direction is welcoming. It is changing, but how well the decisions which are being taken at top will percolate to the ground level, to the students who are taking admission today, will change or will modify the implementation, how it's going to be. I think we need to have brainstorm on this. we should be able to discuss and then come up with, just like Darshanji said, 3 or 4 different modalities. Like center of excellence is one of the ideas, but he also doesn't mean it, and it doesn't that doesn't mean that all the education institutes which are imparting Ayurveda education today should remain mediocre. It's not like that. They should also come in flow. And if we are taking Ayurveda as a Ganga of knowledge, it has begun over past 2000, AD 2000 and BC 2000, so 4000 to 5000 years, that small stream is, allowing all the rivers pour water of knowledge into it, and it's getting bigger and bigger. Similarly, we should be able to adopt whatever new knowledge is coming from biology, from physics, from chemistry, maybe certain things from medicine, and then we have to have a kind of strategy to give a baseline thing and some additional. I think I should stop here.
We'll continue with you. There's no stopping. You're all going to be sharing through the time with us. What I hear you say is actually the integration of all real sciences, whether we call it biology, chemistry, physics, whether we call it Rasashastra, Kriya Sharir, or Kaya Chikitsa. We are integrating what works for the patient. It's a patient-centered approach. That's what I'm hearing.
And the point.
And the prerequisites of students to come into the health system, the health education system, and be funneled or guided toward different systems according to their aptitude, not according to some score of some testing that doesn't echo that aptitude, is what I'm hearing you saying. So we go back to our consummate clinician, Dr. Prasad, about the issues of education that you started a few minutes ago before we had the inputs of Dr. Darshan, Shankar, and Dr. Asmita Wele. Dr. Prasad, what do you think about these minimum standards and the innovations that no one so far is willing to propose? And I will actually propose some standards because I've been thinking about this as well as a teacher of faculty and as a student. Please tell us what you think of the education proposition for the future.
Fine. Thank you. See, I think we can do a lot in this line, no doubt at all. I was working as the principal of an Ayurveda college since 2015 till couple of months, till the end of May this year. So we can have lot of original things done in any platform, in whatever the restrictions are. But if we give some sort of autonomous powers, as Darshanji was mentioning, I think definitely I'm confident that we can come up with beautiful centers of excellence, no doubt at all. Because I think we need not duplicate the Coimbatore model everywhere, because it was a different time and different regulations and entire things have changed. So it may not make any sense to duplicate the Coimbatore model again. We have to live in the present situation. And what I would suggest is the MSR, that is what we call as the MSR, and as rightly pointed out by Darshanji, the M stands for the minimum, not the maximum, but unfortunately we all take it as the maximum. So we never go beyond, we never grow beyond the MSR. That is what is happening. And I think many of these things, in spite of such a very great platform to work on, have lots of limitations. See, we have to clearly divide what undergraduate syllabus is. And I don't think that all the stuff, all the rubbish what we are teaching the students in the undergraduates classes are not at all necessary, because they are simply double burdened. Because from one side, they are learning Ayurvedic philosophy or Padartha Vijnanam or whatever it is. On the next hour, they will be learning modern anatomy. And they will find it quite baffling what is what and where to bridge these two stuffs. And that paradigm jerk actually continues till the end of their life, no doubt. They never find meeting place. They are like the two railway tracks. They never meet. They go to the infinity. We can change it. See, in the undergraduate syllabus, you start the clinical training from the day one according to Ayurveda. you give continuous training in the basic principles all the 5 years. You give them training in Dravya Guna Vijnanam and Bhaishajya Kalpana all the 5 years. Take off all the unnecessary stuff and they will come up with flying colors out of the campus, no doubt. Secondarily, you can recruit the best hands from these group for their postgraduate studies or post-doctoral or doctoral studies, and let them be the ambassadors of Ayurveda all around the globe. Like Madanji is envisaging, I think we need gems of Ayurveda to fly around the globe as ambassadors, no doubt. Then only we can bring the world back to India, seeking the original stuff of Ayurveda. So we have to be selective. All the undergraduates are not supposed to be the scholars like Charaka or Sushruta, but all the postgraduates or PhDs should be at least near the Charaka or Sushruta, that way. So we have to be selective. In that class, in that level, you can introduce whatever really things are required for their further movement. You can teach them or you can learn them. I mean, introduce 1 or 2 foreign languages, and even I think we can have some introductory sessions for this emergency management or whatnot, no doubt. But in the UG syllabus, I think we have to remove all this rubbish of modern biochemistry, modern this and everything, and make the jnanam contaminated. You know, one person is becoming pure only when there is jnana shuddhi. So without jnana shuddhi, you cannot expect any person to do wonders. So it is possible. It is possible. Like Archimedes told, I would say that give me a place to stand and enough funds, I shall change the scene. It is possible. I do not mean that as a person I can do, but it is possible. No doubt at all.
Thank you, sir. So I've just put into the chat group some of the solid, concrete steps of innovation that some of our attendees would like to contribute to this discussion. And as we hear from them in the coming moments, I want to just thank all of you for talking about where you think it is. As a student in some of the best institutions of America and having taught places all around the world in universities as well as clinics, and then coming to India and being in a place like BHU, I have been thinking about how to educate Ayurvedic doctors for the last 6-7 years. And as a Fulbright scholar, this is one of the things that we were asked to do in our teaching section. There are several models that would be wonderful to implement in Ayurveda. And I'm just going to give 3 concrete, very short, and then we can come back to it during the questions. After I give these, I'd like to go through the comments and see if there's anything that anyone in the audience would like to contribute. And then we'll talk about research, because that's usually one of the components that funds a lot of the education. So 3 of the things that I have seen. One is in the American medical system. You know, I went through the doctorate of medicine as one of my degrees. One of the schools started an innovative program in which the students started in the first 6 weeks. They took an intensive course on how to become emergency medical technicians. And what it has done is given those first-year medical students such a confidence that they are going to become doctors 5 years, 5.5 years down the road for Ayurvedic doctors. But in that first 6 weeks, they learn how to treat emergencies. They become resources for their home communities when they go home and for the community of that local place where they're in medical college. They gain some basic emergency skills. And I wrote an article on how emergency medicine in Ayurveda can interface with the ABCs, which is the airway, breathing, and circulation of the cardiopulmonary resuscitation CPR training course. That kind of a course that's 6 weeks long only gave such enthusiasm for the first year medical students that what I found in the first profession of Ayurvedic medical students is that they were studying on the side to become MBBS, and they would take that exam and try to leave the first year and try to go from BAMS into MBBS. And certainly several people did. Instead of that, and seeing your classmates all trying to get into real medical school or regular medical school, or whatever that means, they weren't embracing the fact that fate or bhagya had chosen them as the special people to become Ayurvedic doctors. And so I interacted with a lot of those first years while I was at BHU, and I just saw the students in New York who went through the emergency medical course and how excited they were. The second is to learn Dinacharya, Ritucharya, Swasvit in your own life. I was so scared to see the kind of food that they would offer us in the hostel. I stayed in a ladies' hostel for some time before I decided to move off campus. And the food that we would get, yes, there was dal chawal, thank you for that. But the sabji was always substandard. And for what we paid, it just didn't seem possible that this was all that they could offer us. And so after a while, all the students would gain weight, they would become ajirna, Agnimandya, and they would not be well. So to learn to cook, to be encouraged to cook in small groups so that they could become a community of people cooking together, to get up in the morning. BHU had a wonderful yoga program in the morning and a kind of culture of going walking. So you'd get up from your hostel and you'd go walking with a group of people to the mandir, especially on Mondays, because it was a Kashi Vishwanath mandir. That's a second thing. And the third thing that I would love to see is something that I got in my medical college, which is from day one, you are assigned to a mentor, a preceptor, someone who is a clinician out in the community at a clinic. And once every 2 weeks, you must attend clinic with them on a Friday night, a Saturday, a Sunday when you're not in classes, so that they get the clinical study right in the beginning. These are things we could so easily implement. And I just want to offer these as innovation. So having taken the stage for a few moments, I want to come back to our panelists and ask about research, because my research was actually a failed kind of research of PhD, but it was nonetheless research. And there's a lot of potential for research that some of our commenters on our chat are talking about. So let's begin. Actually, Asmita has been doing a lot of research. Let's begin this time with Asmita's comments on research, and then we'll move forward to the other panelists. Dr. Asmita.
Yes, Bhaswati, let me just add to your points of new models that if the National Commission now has to think, there is additional part which they can think of its credit system. You have studied yourself in that Western education system, and I could get a flavor of it in my tenure of 3 years or over in Hungary, that the credit system also gives students an opportunity to pursue what they really want to learn once they enter in the course. So the students who, this course of Ayurveda, which I used to teach there, was optional course. It was optional credit course, but the number which increased from 6 to 104 over the semesters was, I take it as fulfillment of a gap in a medical student's life. Why the students took my course was there are testimonials of the students saying that when we are learning medicine today, we cannot relate anything to our daily life. And the course which you are giving us here, we are practicing whatever you are telling to us in everyday life, and we are taking it back home. And that's what, if we are trying to live healthy, that's bringing a change to our lives, and that will bring a change to the patient's life. So if we are going toward the patient-centric approach, on the path of this education reforms, we need to think of, like I said, credit system can be one of the options which we can think of while, I mean, it's not that easy. And I don't think that we will come up in one short discussion, some roadmap for, how tomorrow's Ayurvedic curriculum, graduation curriculum and model will happen. But yes, we have to also not forget, when we talk from the Ayurveda viewpoint, we only try to find out that, okay, modern medicine has not done this. There are unmet needs of the modern medicine system, and there are these many things which is about 20%. 80% is why the modern medical system actually existed. All of the world, there were variety of traditional systems of medicines. we are fortunate that India and its neighboring countries, the traditional system is alive. They are being taught at par, and just like Vaidya Prasad ji mentioned, in all these neighboring countries, there were political forces which wanted to keep these systems alive. There were people like Darshan ji who took that thing ahead, the thread ahead. They worked, and it is there. So we are running parallel. If we think of the global situation, the international scenario, that's where I'm coming to research. I had to always take that first ball. I used to be the opening batsman always. Like, in your country, how is your relationship with the physicians, modern physicians? And in your country, we know people are aware the internet is the biggest source of information. So they used to ask, okay, then in your country, is the cross-referencing easily possible? And I always had to, quote the example of Kerala, that this cross-reference is there, existing in Kerala. To a certain extent, it exists in Maharashtra, but not everywhere. I never said this open out, but yes, this is the fact and this is the truth which we know. So to bring both the systems at par, for integration also, there are two thought processes going on in the Ayurveda fraternity. One thought process says that Ayurvedic people should learn only Ayurveda, just like what the Prasad ji was saying, the Coimbatore model was there, and they should be only trained into whatever knowledge was there. And there is the second part or second thought line which says that because a student takes admission to become a Vaidya or a doctor, the objective is to treat patients, to earn the livelihood, and then to contribute. So it always starts with, to earn the livelihood and then contribute. It doesn't really stems like I want to do something without, feeding myself. So if that's going to be the case, then we have to, so there, this is the integration model. The second line in integration model is, we will learn Ayurveda, but when we have to see other things, we should know a little bit of biochemistry, we should know pathology, we should know this, that. So when you are open out in practice and patient is coming to you with, printed reports and you can't even read it, just like illiterate person, where it is going to take us. So this debate is going to be there, and both the streams have their pros and cons, but we have to think openly, find out ways to bridge it, find out ways to keep certain things aside and separate from each other.
Thank you, Dr. Wele. Sorry, did you finish?
Yes, I finished, but about research, I'll come back to you. Yeah.
Yes, let me just get a couple of words in from Dr. Darshan Shankar and see if he wants to input, because his university model is called the Transdisciplinary Universities, right? So he's already thought of some of this, and that's why he is counseled from the leaders at the top, right, who are trying to change education. Dr. Darshan ji, what do you think of what you're hearing so far?
My theme throughout is strategic interventions. I think that research in Ayurveda should really focus on strengths that Ayurveda has in its theoretical and clinical foundations, which can transform globally, health sciences. And I'll give just some examples of strategic areas of research. I think that Ayurveda can firstly contribute to a new scheme. There are hundreds of areas in which we can do, research papers are being published every day. I'm talking of strategic research. So I'm saying one area is Ayurveda can contribute to a new scheme of disease classification. I think today in health sciences, in biomedicine, disease classification is very gross. You treat a group of people as uniform, as homogeneous, when actually there is a great deal of variability in those individuals. So variability is the area in which we can contribute, that Ayurveda is a master of understanding variability. Even if you take a simple thing like a diarrhea, the kinds of diarrhea that you would have, I'm talking of non-specific diarrheas, the kind of diarrheas that you can have in modern medicine will be attributed to some organism, an amoeba, a bacteria, a virus, a parasite or whatever. Now, here you have the Tridosh Vichar, and it is such a sophisticated scheme of, you can look at categories of Vataj Atisar, Kafaj Atisar, Paitik Atisar. This is extremely sophisticated because the variability that you uncover, even in a simple condition of non-specific diarrhea, is enormous. And you can actually find biomarkers to show the variability. Now, this is just a simple example of diarrhea, but you can do that in Parkinson's, you can do that in strokes, you can do that in, fevers. There's such a sophisticated knowledge of variability. I mean, given our understanding of phenotypes, the Prakriti types, giving our understanding of Shadkriya Kal, stages of progression of diseases, I think we can make a global contribution if we do research. It's a 10-year program. If you do research on classification of diseases, it will have to be an integrative approach in the sense that the classification will emerge from Ayurveda clinical theory, from Ayurveda diagnostics, but you will use multi-omics platforms, in biology, to show the validity of the Ayurvedic scheme of disease classification. So I think that is a strategic area. I think drug development itself is a strategic area. Today, drug development is mostly single molecule, single targets. This is very, very simplistic biology. Ayurveda's drugs, the traditional knowledge digital library that CSIR and Ayush built up, already is computerized 4 lakh herbal formulations, Shastric formulations, with their indications. They have already computerized that. Such a huge reservoir. The entire world's global reservoir in biomedicine of drugs is of the order of 4,000. Now you are talking of 400,000 formulations that you have in the Ayurveda literature. Now, these are all, at the frontiers of modern drug development, because these are not single molecules. This is what you would call in modern language as combinatorial chemistry. They are not targeting on a single target. They are targeting syndromes. And that's the future of drug development. We require drugs which are, several molecules. We already have them in our formulations. And targeting, syndromes, targeting so many pathways. So I think we are already sitting on the drugs. We don't have to reformulate drugs. We just have to show in what a sophisticated manner they work. So I think drug development is another area. I think in public health, which is a third example I would use, I think food is an area which is very basic. Most of our health or ill health is food is what is responsible. Today, the understanding of food in modern biology or in modern nutrition is so limited. Food chemistry is the basis for deciding on food. Food chemistry is external, is in vitro. So what if there is so much proteins, carbohydrates, fats, etc.? It does not translate into the same chemistry when you consume it. It all depends on the metabolism of the person. It depends on the prakriti of the person. We have such a sophisticated understanding in Dravya Gun Shastra of food. So I think that if we build a database for 21st century, which is like a Aadhaar card, we know the Aadhaar card for biometrics and unique identity. Ideally, food needs to be personalized, needs to be individualized. That is the challenge of the 21st century. The only system of knowledge that can provide the world a strategy for personalized food, for individualized food, is Ayurveda. Of course, it will have to join hands with food chemistry with food nutrition. Dravya Guna will be at the core of it. So I'm saying these are the kinds of problems that we should look at in terms of strategic research. Otherwise, there are hundreds and dozens of problems on which research is being done. I mean, I'm sure that people like Asmita might have an idea of looking at, metals and minerals. I mean, she's an expert on that area. Drugs being developed from, we are a master. No, I don't think any other country in the world has got safe, effective drugs of Rasashastra made from metals and minerals. So there could be areas like this, but we have to pick up strategic areas. I'll stop here.
Thank you, Darshan. For people who don't know the lingo, TKDL and the active compounds, which are part of the pharmacopoeia of Ayurveda, is really important for everyone in this audience to know about. And since we have an international audience, I'm wondering if Dr. Madan can just talk to us for a couple of seconds about the TKDL before we move on with the panelists.
Vaswati, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm a silent observer here in that I want to stay neutral, having raised the issues that we set as the agenda of today. And based on the discussions we've had till now, very elaborate, very eloquent points raised and discussed, and the comments that have come in from the audience. What is coming through here is Ayurveda is definitely curtailed of its freedom. And I think that is the message that's being reinforced again and again by all the speakers and the questions that are coming in. And I want to take a moment to touch the point, 2 points that Darshanji has raised, which, if played strategically, can offer great strengths, but if played carelessly, will take Ayurveda more into that imprisoned state that it is currently facing. And I want to take the example first of the traditional digital knowledge library with about 300,000, just under 300,000 Ayurvedic formulations. And my understanding of this was that it came out of a very innovative interaction between the then Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and the Department of Ayush within and CSIR. It is in existence for such a long time, and I feel this valuable innovation could be used much more, but somehow is being used incorrectly and traps Ayurveda further. So that's point number one. The second thing about matching diets and defining new markers, etc. This is directed to Darshanji. Darshanji, these are studies that will require incredible amounts of investment. Is what is running through your mind feeling that that investment has to come from
as a group want to see Ayurveda move forward? I agree, sir, with what you've said, and I would love to hear from either Dr. Wele or Dr. Shankar about research, if there's any other comments you'd like to make. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll go to some of the questions that are in the chat. Dr. Wele, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Baswati, and it was really coming from heart of Vaidya Prasadji. I agree with you in toto. And this is a question maybe the whole Ayurvedic fraternity should ask itself, why not that person who will make this Guduchi and Ashwagandha be an Ayurvedic person? Antiviral properties of Ashwagandha, and if it is helping the whole world out there, what's wrong in that? We are not keeping Ayurveda principles aside. We are trying to explore Ayurvedic principles in a light of present day knowledge. And that's what I have been saying since beginning. There is one more point which I forgot to mention, but yes, we are talking about this for last 10 years, that when I was teaching, giving this course to the students in a university, a medical university, in Europe, why can't the universities in India, medical schools should give one course, one optional course of Ayurveda? Not only Ayurveda, there should be a course of Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani, the whole Ayush systems, at least the introductory basic course, so that there will be that respect will start generating. And we are not talking about the bygone era. We are not talking about those, but the students who are coming in 2020 and post 2020, what about them? These are the young talented minds. They are coming with a good insight into the modern biology, physics, chemistry. Why can't Ayurvedic knowledge take help of this existing knowledge? Every time it is not necessary to unlearn completely what you have learned. Whatever you have learned, based on that you can learn new, go on comparing, and you can make silos, but at the same time, there are certain areas where you can build bridges. So silos and bridges both have to be there. At certain nuances or specificities, there is this specialization of Ayurveda, specialization of modern science. And there are bridges. Research is the area which tries to build the bridges. I'm telling you from my own experience that when I learned Padartha Vidyan, it was all alien to me. Though I studied Sanskrit is in my home. Since 1 year old, I have been reciting all our Sanskrit shlokas and everything. I studied that and I couldn't connect with it. And today when I wrote a book of research methodology, not a single chapter I could write without Padartha Vidyan. The whole Padartha Vidyan is research methodology of not only Ayurveda, of today's era. That's the beginning. And based on that, we have to build. What we do not have there in the Padartha Vidyan is methodology. How to document, what to document, which test to apply. So you take the principle of Padartha Vidyan, you take today's methods, blend them properly, come out with a conclusion and relate it back to the Ayurvedic sciences. And that's perfectly possible and feasible is my conviction after 30 years of study into research. Second point which I want to make here, Bhaswati, is everything is for application. Okay, the world is for application. So education, clinical practice, research, and product development, they all go hand in hand. So it is the pedagogy of Ayurveda. So you learn first, you apply it, you face the problems while application, you try to find out solution and bring that solution back into your education. That's where the circle completes. And this is the process of Ayurveda, which the language might be different. The ethnicities might be different. People from different cultures and classes are looking at Ayurveda. They are expecting something. And if we do not open our doors and if we do not come forward. So when Madanji said that freedom for Ayurveda, I asked him, do you think Ayurveda is behind bars or in jails or is not free? If it is, it's not the case. Maybe people in Ayurveda may not be free in their own thinking, and then it becomes their own responsibility. But right now, I feel that there are many good people who are visionary, who can guide, who can lead by example. There is younger generation coming in with good models of research. They are giving importance to personalized medicine, as well as they are looking at where the model of RCT can be best suitable. The objectives of the two are different. And like Charak Samhita says, like even Rasashastra says, there are, for a different application, there is one cell cannot fit everybody. Similarly, in ancient days, the Gurukula practice was a perfect model, but that was the model suitable for that generation. One person was wearing different hats. He was the clinician, he was the teacher, he was the researcher, he was the medicine maker. He was wearing different hats as per the time with his students. Now is not the case. All the things are separate. So we have to work in team. We have to work together. And for this, we need definite strategies. We need to have planning. And there are many good examples which are working right now all over India. Today morning, I was listening to the presentation by AIMS director, Dr. Sunethri, and she showed how well they are, they are collaborating all the practices in the institute. And there were photographs, videos, which cannot be, you can see. And there are, of course, you get the reviews from patients, you get the reviews from students. So people are working, there are various models, there are examples. And when it comes to research, you have to take that Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, all of these principles, add on whatever new technologies, the method of observation, the recording, we are using new technology, and then come up, add statistics to it, come up with the answer, bring it back to the principle. Just to give an example, when we studied on so many formulae, about 10-15 formulations right now we have studied. But when what we don't have is, we don't have how the drug works inside the body and what exact changes the drug undergoes when it goes in the body. The clinical effect is always there and it can be more personalized. There is no need to think otherwise. But these works have given evidence and confidence both. And that's what is needed today. So with this, I think there are various guidelines, documents, and we can use it as per the requirement. Thank you. Madan, I'm through.
Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Dr. Madan, are you here? I don't see your video
I'm here. Good. Now,
Good.
I'm just looking at the time and we are trying to draw things to a close. I want to pass the microphone to Darshan ji, and before that to Vaidya Prasad ji, because he had something to add here. Prasad ji, yours, and then Darshan ji. And after
Yes.
Darshan ji, I would like to bring in Professor Valdis Pirags, who is here with us in the audience. Valdis is coming to us from Riga in Latvia, so we will bring that. So Prasad ji, all yours. Then
Yes.
to Darshan
Yes,
ji.
what I would like to specify is, you see, we have Ayurveda Vaidyas, we have Ayurvedic curriculum, Ayurveda colleges, everything is here. The question is, at the end of the day, there should be takers for Ayurvedic principles and Ayurvedic practice to the core. If the Ayurvedic Vaidyas do not know Ayurveda properly, who else is supposed to know all these things? If you are interested, if you are enthusiastic, like Asmita ji was talking about, later you can explore to any areas, the diverse area, no doubt. But I think during the formative years, mixing up of many concepts will create some sort of a paradigm jerk, and that is going to affect all throughout the career of an individual. Ayurvedic scholars, Ayurvedic Vaidyas should have a thorough understanding about how the Ayurvedic exercise of diagnosis is done. And they should have a correct idea about what this Nidana Viparyayam is, or what this Samprapti is all about. And they should have treated people, they should have seen people getting cured, and they should be able to communicate. For this, we need autonomous institutes, as rightly mentioned by Darshan ji. And you see, the political patronage or political endorsement we are supposed to get is lacking. In the first ministry of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, after independence, there was a discussion from 1920, which should be India's state, the medicine system. And for the first health minister, Rajkumar A. Amrit Kaur, there was no doubt at all that India should have one system of medicine, and that should be Western. And Vijay Lakshmi Pandit was 100% echoing her decision. So where is political patronage? Where is political endorsement for the system? If a BAMS student of this year knows nothing about Ayurveda, he can get a pass. But if he knows everything in Ayurveda and does not know Western medicine, he will not pass his exams. That is the discrepancy that is existing in the syllabus today. So how can we expect good Vaidyas to come out of these academies, and research should not be confined to Ayurvedic BAMS or MD, PhD scholars. It should be interdisciplinary. Vaidya's duty is to show what Ayurveda is, how Ayurveda works, how the result is brought. Let us come together, research scholars from all areas. Why don't we engage music scholars in Ayurvedic research, physicists in Ayurvedic research? Why don't a chemist can engage in Ayurvedic research? Why should you insist that Ayurvedic Vaidyas should learn the modern research methodology and do research in that and make proof? Make proof for the sake of evidence. How is it practical? Is it possible in a human life?
Thank you, Prasad.